Hello and welcome to the Happiness Is podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison. And today we are celebrating a knock of 50 not out. Absolutely delighted. And I'm joined by the man who convinced me to make it happen and who is still there pushing the buttons and pulling the strings to make sure that things go well. I've known him for a while. We've only actually met in person twice, but we speak most days. We message. We're in touch a lot, and I love the guy to bits. He has always been there. Quite literally, he has always been there. I took a bit of convincing. He's been at me for probably 18 months. You need to do a podcast. You need to do a podcast. You need to do a podcast. And I kept saying, I don't know who's going to listen, and I don't know who would come on, and I don't know what would happen to it. And he kept going. And off the back of the work we did with the Doddy Weir Foundation in January, we decided to go for it, and I still wasn't sure. And here we are, 50 outputs later. And this is pod number 42 for the Happiness Is podcast. Why 42? Because believe it or not, that's my age. I know. I look a lot younger, but I'm 42. We've had 50 outputs. When we get to that 50th Happiness Is pod, it's going to be big. But without any further ado, let's bring in the man, my man, the one and only from Fill Your Boots Rugby, Mr. Sean Phelan. Hello, sir, and welcome.
Well, that was a hell of an introduction.
Yeah, love you. Absolutely
love you too.
You've been so good to me, and I'm delighted that you're here because you've got some big news happening. What's going on with Fill Your Boots?
Yeah, so the 6th anniversary came up this week, and we've been helping clubs and players find each other for a long time now, and this week, we launched our own social network. So we're taking on Mark Zuckerberg and everybody down at Twitter and Facebook and whatever. And I've created an online community for grassroots rugby. So yeah, that was launched the other day. It's had a great response so far. So yes, it's nice it's been a long time. So it's nice to finally get it out there.
And I know how hard you've worked to make it happen, and you've watched a lot of YouTube clips to find out how to do things, and you've spoken to lots of people, and you've had lots of great feedback. And a man who's made my dreams come true. We've had a podcast. I've spoken to some unbelievable people. We've had some great experiences together. Yeah, but then you gave me my Eddie Butler moment.
Yeah. So I was part of the launch was a video which was put together incredibly hastily on using Canva's stock footage. So it might look sleek and professional, but it really isn't. And it's narrated by your good self, Johnny Hammond from the Women's Rugby Pod.
Good guy.
Yeah, great guy.
And the real star of the show
is my wife, Freya.
Good on you, Freya. What a tolerance level that lady's got.
Oh, no, tell me about it.
Matched only by Nikki, my good wife, I think. Matched only. The two of them have a lot in common.
Yeah, I have to grin and bear us talking about rugby for 366 days every year.
Yeah, our mistress that is the game of rugby football. So, mate, we've been through it. You are the technological genius behind all this, and we did some bits and pieces, and I did some bits with you for you, and then we had this idea to support Doddy Aid. Yeah. And I think I'm still pinching myself.
Oh, what an experience that was. And I think that's, it's led to a lot of these things, isn't it? It's led to the guests that we've had. It's led to the opportunities that we've sort of both been afforded off the back of it. And also, getting to speak to some of these people and interact with some of the people that we had was just, what a thrill.
And lockdown's rubbish, and we never ever want to go back, and we never wished for it. But out the back of lockdown, we've been able to pick up some of these things. And Doddy, very few people can say they flashed their backside to Lorraine.
Wow, that is true. That is true. And that wasn't me either. That was definitely you.
But we WhatsApp each other as these things are unfolded, and the WhatsApps over Doddy Aid were hilarious because we were both pinching ourselves. We've got Chris Hoy and Lorraine in the green room.
Yeah, And to be honest, it was probably in the days leading up to each event, hearing from the guys at the foundation just going, "Oh yeah, Lorraine's going to be on this week." Oh right, yeah, okay. And you inside that you've got to try and keep it cool because you've got to be professional. But everywhere else, you're like, "Fucking Lorraine's coming on," and Ali McCoist,
Coisty was a bit of legend, but Dougie Vipon bailed us out, didn't he?
Dougie Vipon is the ultimate professional. The ultimate professional. I stumbled across his BBC Scotland programme the other day on BBC Two, and I thought, oh, that's a man that's used a bit of Just for Men in his hair.
Don't give him a hard time. I'm just jealous.
Yeah,
he is great. We love Dougie, and it was class when he came on and we spoke about all sorts of nonsense. That one could have lasted 3.5 hours, I reckon.
Well, I think some of them did. Some of them did, but I think we planned them for an hour.
Yeah,
they just ran and ran. But it was great, and hopefully it brought a lot of added exposure and added value to what Dodgy Aid was trying to achieve, and yeah, I loved and that gave us the opportunity to speak every day and sort of enjoy this whole thing together, and that's when the podcast sort of came about, didn't it?
Yeah, you finally got there. You've been nagging at me for a while, I'm glad you did.
When there was the social media blackout the other day, and I was trying to DM you because I needed to send you something. It was actually 2018 when I told you that you should do a podcast.
Was it really?
Yeah, 2018. I said there's a message in there that says you really need to do a podcast, and here we are 3.5 years later with 50 odd episodes.
You're beginning to sound like Nicky telling me to do stuff, and then 3.5 years later I actually get around to doing it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've probably got the same things going on.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did, because I'm not sure I ever would have thought about it. And when you first started to talk to me about it, I thought you actually had to be there at 7:00 every Monday night. Didn't realise the magic of technology.
No, well, obviously during lockdown, I had to do something with Philly Boots. Otherwise it was just gonna, just sink into the ether. So I'd created, had this idea of doing sort of weekly live webinar type that would turn into podcasts, and I found the software that we use today, which has been incredible. Like, there's lots of other people that now use my subscription, which is great. And the magic of technology that we can record. Sorry, guys, they're not live, and this isn't live either. But we record 10 over a short period of time, and then you can go and do the day job.
Yeah, some of them made me laugh when Gilly McCord came on. Gilly, Scotland International Master Chef finalist, and you left me on my own. I can't remember where you were. You were away recording for the women's rugby pod, I think. Yeah. And I got 45 minutes in and realised that I hadn't pressed record.
Yeah.
And because Gilly, she was amazing. But Gilly and I are both teachers, and I think it was during our February half term. And I said, "Listen, Gilly, I'm really sorry." And she went, "It's okay. I've got nothing else to do." So we just did it again. I felt like such an idiot. So now I'm just so nervous that record has been hit, and when I press stop, if you leave me on my own and I have to press stop, I just leave the screen just in case there's some little sprite comes along and doesn't quite make it happen. And then was it last week, we got that message from the Wooden Spoon to say about being in the top 10 rugby must listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Now, while I was over the moon about being included in a list like that, and I knew nothing about it until it was released.
No, I didn't know.
But you had 3 podcasts in the top 10.
Yeah, I had 3. I had my own cheap plug for the Philly Brutes Rugby Roundtable. This one, and the Women's Rugby Pod, which doing off the back of this was that had the incredible opportunity to go and edit that with Johnny and Berth and Sarah Hunter, and getting to meet all those people, which is off the back of doing things like this. So it's it's a cool life.
So I'm your gateway pod. Is that what you're telling me?
Gateway pod, yeah. You're the entrance into the podcast editing world. Never made a dime off it, but yeah.
No. Tell me about it. Burf's a bit of class, though. I loved having her on when we did the Samurai series.
Yeah,
she's a great lady, and
absolutely.
probably going to change the world, I think.
Oh, 100%. And Johnny as well is just someone that's got that incredible passion for the game. Probably doesn't get the credit he deserves for everything that he's done in the game, commentating, coaching, podcasting.
I've never met the guy, never even spoken to him, but I feel like I do because we speak so often. You speak so often to Johnny. I actually feel like I know the guy, and we've never ever even been on a screen together.
Put him on your list for another episode. But yeah, great human being. Really proud to be able to call them friends now, which is really cool. Just like me and Johnny speak most days, coming up with silly ideas for different things, and incredible passion. Deserves more credit than he gets for putting out incredible guests, incredible episodes, and he's got Berth and Sarah Hunter and all these incredible rugby players alongside him to make this happen.
No, he's a bit of class, is Johnny. Keen to chat to him at some point. Getting the King of Pods on was pretty cool. Getting Jim on, Hamilton, and that was such a nice thing for him to do because he knew he was about to go exclusive to Spotify. And I think in the contract, he's only allowed to do a certain number of things outside, and he said, so we need to get on with it. So I think I asked him, and I'd been putting off asking him because I didn't think, I don't know, probably just lack of confidence. And when I said to him, and he was like, yeah, 100%, get me on, but we need to do it now. And I think we recorded it the following day and put it out on the Monday. And I got so many messages off the back of that pod because people were expecting us just to arse about and tell silly stories. And actually we got to some pretty interesting bits about Jim Hamilton that maybe people didn't know. I think he's going to have to write an autobiography, isn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely. That was incredible again because I think we thought we were going to get the bombastic, lad banter Jim Hamilton, and we didn't. We probably got James Hamilton, which was really cool. But the best thing about that, bearing in mind that we're novice podcast editors, and he's like, shall I use this particular mic or this particular mic?
He was worried about the lighting and stuff, wasn't he?
I haven't got a clue. Let's just press record and see what happens.
No, it's been and that I think people are quite surprised that that's what it is. That we just hit record, talk for an hour, and then hit stop. And you have edited some of them because let's face it, I do make mistakes. But it's not that onerous. We tend to spend a lot of time before record and after record.
Yeah.
Richie Gray cracked me up because you didn't really know Richie Gray.
No.
But Richie and I have known each other for a long time, and we spoke for a while before we hit record. We then hit record, and then I think you had to go to bed, and Richie and I were talking for about another, probably as long as the pod when we'd hit stop. But those have been great to reconnect to people. David Gray in New Zealand. Still sad that our Clark Laidlaw one got eaten by the sprites. But we hoping we're going to get Clark back on because I absolutely loved that one. Clark was
Shane Byrne as well.
Yeah, Shane Byrne,
which was incredible, and it's a real shame that no one could ever hear it. But
no.
Yeah.
So there have been some errors along the way. Getting Bentos on was nice, and he listened, but I'm not sure how many of them actually listened back to their pod.
Probably none of them.
But Bentos got his kids to listen to it, and he shared it around. And then I got a brilliant phone call from him on the Sunday night, and I called you after it to say, just had a call from Bentos saying thanks for having me on, and he'd listened to it, and that was really cool. And I love that there's still that, although he's been and done and seen and gets to speak everywhere, he still takes that pride and interest in something like this, which isn't getting him out to the masses, I suppose.
No.
He's a
That
good
was a
guy. I'm looking
great
forward to seeing
conversation.
him. Yeah, I'm looking
And
forward to
I think
seeing him again. And there's so many people that have been on that we've never actually met. Like, I'm
no.
keen to meet. I want to come to a game and see Rocky Clark and
Well,
Tamara Taylor.
I was just going to say the two guests that we had incredibly early on, two absolute superstars in Rocky and Tamara, and that was an absolute joy. Like, Rocky was sharing things that she'd said she'd never shared in
Yeah,
public before, and
I nearly fell off my seat.
You fell off your seat while you're on camera, and I'm sitting there in the background, being listener number one, just going, "Oh my god, this is incredible! Everyone needs to hear this."
I love Rocky. I'm so keen to meet Rocky in person. I want to come down and see her when she's still trotting around for Saris, and see Tamara probably coaching, sometimes covering the front row. But I really want to host this reunion of the World Cup squad.
Yeah. Well, I think, to be honest, how many have we interviewed? 3 or 4 already?
We've had Burf, we've had Rocky, we've had Tamara, and then it was great to speak to Catherine Spencer, who, those girls stand on the shoulders of people like Catherine Spencer, who'd been there for a while, and for her to be a first, to get that book out and talk about her life and her story and be so honest. Imagine having her as your teacher. I mean, that would be so cool.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
And having Rona Lloyd on, having taught Rona and known her since she was about 11 years old, and need to get her back on because her journey just continues, with Mel, who we'd met through Doddy Aid, and just a brilliant, inspirational, positive lady. Loved that. Absolutely loved that. And then coming off the back of a bit of popularity, just getting into Christine Bellil, she and her mum sending us messages when she'd been having a chat with Maggie on Twitter, and she was just so honest. Didn't come to Scotland to play for Scotland, just came to travel, loved Glasgow, played, and now is being touted as a lioness, I suppose.
Yeah, incredible. And there's lots of, like, that Christine Bellil episode is such a, I don't want to call them sleeper episodes, but there are so many like that. David Smith, even more recently, Kieran Akacha.
Every time David Smith spoke, that it was a soundbite. I mean, that guy is just awesome. Yeah. Such an amazing, inspirational guy. And then Hamilton Burr just recently.
Hamilton Burr, yeah.
Hamilton Burr went nuts because all his mates here wanted to see it. Stirling County got right behind it. Aberdeen Wanderers got right behind it. His buddies in the Waikato got behind it. So I can't wait to go and visit the Waikato and see my mate Adam, who's the S&C coach for the Chiefs, and try and catch up with Hamilton, who I think lives round the corner from him. Here's my co-star Maggie on. Just wants to say hello and go for a walk. Yeah, she's quite often at my feet as I do these things, and I have to try and bat her down when she starts to wake up a little bit and wants to go for a wander. But it's been awesome, mate. And one of the best bits has been we've been able to share it. As I keep saying, we build these relationships, and we've only met in person twice after that first message you sent me to say, do you want to come and play touch at Twickenham? And I said, yeah. And you said, where are you based? I was like, Edinburgh. You're like, oh, right, okay. Well, don't worry about it. It's like, no, I'll be there. And then we met in the summer. As I brought the family down to London, so the two clans got to meet in London Village and break bread, which was really cool for everybody to get together. And hopefully that's going to happen again, and we'll be able to welcome you up here at some point for a game at Murrayfield or the Dam Health Stadium, which I'm excited about going back to this weekend. Mate, I've just loved it, and we've built a strong relationship, and we've shared experiences on a screen. Feel like I'm a teenage boy, getting to know people on a screen, and then we've got some stories to tell. We've made some memories, and I think I don't know. Are these people that when we meet them in real life, are they going to remember? Or are they just going to see this bit? And
I don't know, but I don't know about that. But there'll be certain people that definitely do.
The first time I met Ben, or the only time I've actually met Ben Ryan in person, I introduced myself as the guy that pesters him on social media. So it was nice that he finally relented and came on the pod, because he's another guy I've just admired for so long from afar. And then Damien McGrath was on. He was on the list, the original list that I refer to in some of the pods of people I want to speak to, because he's another guy that I've watched from afar for so long. And just imagine having him as your PE teacher. You'd be scared. You'd be scared to deal with that. But to go to Spain and then to go to Samoa and Canada and Germany, and brave guy with some stories to tell. He's another one I'm desperate to go and share a beer with in some rugby club somewhere in Yorkshire. Or go to Batley. Go to a Batley game.
Go to Batley, yeah. So for the future then, who do you want next? Like, who is there a second?
I don't know. We talk about this a lot. And I'm not sure. There's a bit that I love the idea of big names, but then big names are on other people's pods that are big, and I like, Hamilton Burr was great. Tony Walker, my mate, was great. Davy Gray, Richie Gray, Rona. Some of the people I already know that I feel comfortable speaking to, and they probably are comfortable with my nonsense. There's people that I've met and I hope now become buddies, like Rocky. I'd love to think.
One person we didn't even mention, Gordy Reid.
And Gordy's going to be back, and he's going to be live, because let's face it, the man is just majestic, and he's at me all the time, sends me voice messages on WhatsApp all the time, usually him singing made up lyrics when he's on a job somewhere doing something, or he's traveling, or he's doing one of his crazy walks, but he sends me all these voice messages and songs. So there has to be a live Gordy Reid, but it looks like we're going to be doing some things in person together, which I'm excited about. And he is some boy, reaching out to somebody like Dan Leo in Aussie, Samoan legend, doing so many good things for Pacific Island rugby players. Loved that. So don't get me wrong, I'd love Richie McCaw and Dan Carter to come on. I'd love to have some of those guys. I'm hoping Todd Cleaver in the States. We're still trying to hook up a time that suits. I love Todd. Met him and worked with him before. He's got some stories to tell, and I love the guy. Yeah, do you know, I'd like to get the Barnes on. I'd like to get Wayne and Polly, because Polly cracks me up on social media. I think they'd be a funny pair to have on at the same time. And there's still people that are mates that have done some good things that I'd like to speak to and give a bit of a platform to, if people are still interested and still listening. I hope there is still an appetite for it. I have to admit, I've had a couple of moments of, well, maybe it's done. Maybe we've said all we've got to say, but then getting things like the Wooden Spoon saying you're in the top 10, you should listen to this. And every now and then I get a wee message on Facebook from somebody saying, I listened to that and I loved that. Or when Kev McKenzie phoned me and said, I heard your David Smith pod, I've got a story to tell. And oh boy, did Kev McKenzie have a story to tell. And I was too scared to say no, because let's face it, he's bonkers. And now he's worth a fortune. He doesn't even have to take out a contract that he fulfills himself. He can get somebody else to come and do it. So I said to him, yes. And I enjoyed that. And I don't know Kev, but I'm looking forward to getting to Bridge Hawk and sharing a beer with Kev. Oh, mate, there's so much. This game's so big, and there's so many characters. There's some that have been around for a while and maybe we haven't heard from, and there's others that are just rocking up on the stage and might want to chat. I've worked with Doddy many times, and I love the guy. And while I might not be able to have Doddy, then if there's things I can do to support Doddy, that would be nice. So getting Jill on, or some of Doddy's contemporaries. I'd love to get Gary Armstrong on, but having had Alan Tate and he makes me look like Steve Gates when it comes to technology. I think Gaz would probably be in the second division to Tate's Premier Division. So I don't know how Gaz would get on, but it'd be worth a go. Yeah, there's so much, mate. I love the game. I love the people, and I love telling their stories. And because I'm so passionate about it, I think they know I'm not trying to trip them up. I'm not looking for a headline, and that's probably why people are happy to talk to me. There's not a threat. I don't think I've ever intimidated anybody in my life, so I'm hoping that makes it easy to talk. And I'm looking forward to the future because I don't know what it's going to be. I couldn't possibly have imagined we'd be sitting here 6 months after, or how many months after we did our first one?
Yes, 8 months.
8 months, talking about doing 50 odd outputs. You know, the Murrayfield and Me thing's just a real little passion project that I just love the place. I just get excited by it. I can't wait to go back on Saturday. My father-in-law is going to come to the game the week after. My wife and my kids are going to be in hospitality for the first time at an Edinburgh game. My best mate Kev's coming with his wife Claire and his kids Grace, Jack and Ella. So that's going to be cool. They'll know when to laugh because they've heard all my nonsense before. It's just different week. It's the same gags, just a different week.
Yeah.
So they'll all know when to laugh and get the crowd going. So that's a nice thing as I keep going on. I like sharing it with people. You know, this is not an individual activity by any stretch, and I still can't believe people are listening to me talking, which is probably part of it. If people start saying we're done, then I'll go and find something else to do. I can't wait to get back out live as well. You know, we tried the live show, didn't quite come off, but I think we've got the appetite to do it again, haven't we?
Oh yeah. Again, different time, different place. No, the camera tracks would have been incredible. Different time, different place. It could do quite well, but maybe that's one for Edinburgh.
Yeah,
Scotland versus England.
Yeah, I got to get Kelly live, having sang the theme tune. Got to get Kelly live.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't any copyright issues of that yet. But
I think the seahorses have calmed themselves. Kelly was there was one. Kelly was going to be our first one out, and we recorded it. And then he phoned on the Sunday night and said, "Look,
we recorded it on the Thursday. We were going to put it out the Monday, and on the Sunday at the last minute."
He phoned and said, "Look, I'm leaving Glasgow. Nobody knows yet. It might not be the right thing to do." So we pulled it. But then we had the magnificent hat wearer, Rupert Moon. Yeah. And Mooney, I didn't know him and Damien were a tag team in North Wales.
Okay.
So that was cool. So when Damien name checked Rupert, I was on to Rupert saying, "Oh, I've got Damien on," and Rupert replied saying #skill is king. So that was obviously Damien's go-to. So the two of them were having a little bit of chat, and I love that, like joining those dots up. I didn't know those things happened. I remember having Brian Habana as a guest at hospitality, and I really enjoyed that. And I've bumped into him since when he's been doing TV stuff at Murrayfield. And those are funny moments when somebody like that remembers somebody like me. I don't know if Brian would come on, but he's obviously got a story to tell. I'd love to speak to Sia Khaleesi. I've just been reading some of his extracts, and you know, we can judge all we like, but you don't know a person. You don't know what's going on. You don't know where they've come from, and you can make some guesses, but his story's unreal. But there'll be far bigger fish than me to tell his story. But even if I could have a quiet 10 minutes with him, I think I'd enjoy it. John Smith's another one. South Africa intrigues me because although I've not really had much to do with the rugby there, and there's so many stories to tell.
100%.
So many stories to tell. And then I think it's time Quade Cooper came on for a chat. I think I would melt if Quade Cooper came on, because he's just, I mean, what a story he must have to tell.
For sure.
And still carving it up, still exciting. And Carlos Spencer, that's the next one. So Maggie's going to get a black lab pal who's going to be called Carlos. I've said for about 20 years I'm going to get a black lab boy and call him Carlos after my favourite ever All Black. So I'd love to get Carlos Spencer on, as he was just an idol when I was a kid. I can remember watching Super Rugby and then going to Gala Academy training and trying to do daft Carlos Spencer stuff, even though I didn't have the skill, the pace, the power, any of the elements that made Carlos Spencer. But you can dream.
Absolutely.
Well, mate, listen, I love it, and thank you, because I've got so much to be grateful for, and you're a big part of that. You kept pushing me. You saw something and thought, I'm going to keep nagging him, and I'm glad you did, because while people say, "Oh, he's confident." When I asked Mark Beaumont to do it, and I said, "Look, Sean's been at me, but I didn't have the confidence to do it, and now I do." And he replied to me saying, "I would never have you down as somebody who didn't have confidence." But I love Mark Beaumont is just
That was incredible.
a class guy, funny guy, bonkers, doing crazy things, but giving up an hour to chat to me.
It could have been longer. It could have been longer.
He'd got up earlier to get on his bike to fit in speaking to me, so he'd been up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Was he pulled over by the police or doing something for the police that morning? And then
he was about to go and do the police, but remember he didn't promote it, and we worried what had happened. But he'd sliced his finger off, and he ended up in hospital. And we were thinking he's not retweeted this, he's not posted about it, but it turned out he'd been in hospital with a really serious injury to his hand.
That's right. Yeah.
But I think he was back on his bike that afternoon because that's
what he does.
Yeah, he gets on his bike. Mate, thank you. I love it. You know that you get us on Apple and Acast and Spotify, and you want people to sign up and tell their friends, and you're the one that's pushed me towards all that, and I still can't really believe it. Sometimes I search it up just to make sure it's still there and nobody's pulled it. But yeah, thank you. And here's to the next 50. Let's get to the century, and when we get to 50 happinesses, let's see what we can come up with. I think we've got to get Gordy on live, otherwise he'll never speak to us again.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. It is an absolute pleasure. Yeah, it's been a great sort of 8 months so far. We've got plenty more stories to tell. I love it, and I get to spend loads of time with my mate, listening to him to telling all these great stories. So it's an absolute pleasure.
Oh, you're a gentleman. Let's get Lorraine on.
Oh, let's get Lorraine. Yeah,
let's get Lorraine on.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Bruce, who? We did
it's
what?
Your mate. It's your mate. That's in the titles as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Andy Peters going, happiness is egg-shaped.
And Lorraine. Yeah. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've got so much more to do. So it's just the start.
Yeah, here comes number one. Cheers, mate. Love you. See you soon.
Cheers.